Production on the Dune Sisterhood series set to air on HBO Max is moving full steam ahead. Recently, some casting news has been revealed, as well as more concrete details about its plot and source material. However, in light of this newest information, my initial optimism about the show has somewhat waned, as a few red flags have given me more reason to be concerned about the prospects for this series. So in this video, I'd like to cover the latest updates and what we know so far about this Bene Gesserit prequel series, and discuss why I'm feeling particularly concerned about this project moving forward. This Bene Gesserit focused series was first announced back in June of 2019, shortly after filming began for Dune Part 1, with the movie's co-writers Denis Villeneuve and Jon Spaihts serving as executive producers, along with Brian Herbert, Byron Merritt, and Kim Herbert for the Frank Herbert estate. Kevin J. Anderson, who co-writes the expanded Dune universe novels with Brian Herbert, also serves as co-producer for the show. Warner Brothers and Legendary, the distribution and production companies behind the film adaptation, are also co-producing the series. Regarding the production of the show, Denis Villeneuve was quoted saying, "The Bene Gesserit have always been fascinating to me. Focusing a series around that powerful order of women seemed not only relevant and inspiring, but a dynamic setting for the television series." Villeneuve's reported involvement was initially a major reason for my own optimism, as I feel that he is exactly the right kind of visionary filmmaker to helm Warner Brothers' Dune franchise. In July of 2021, Variety reported that Diane Ademu-John had signed on as the showrunner, writer, and executive producer. Most recently, she's worked on the Netflix series The Haunting of Bly Manor. Her credits also include Empire, The Originals, The Vampire Diaries, Medium, and Crossing Jordan. I admit that I haven't seen any of these shows, nor are these in a genre that I would typically choose to watch, so I don't feel necessarily optimistic or pessimistic regarding her involvement at this time. A more detailed synopsis for the show was also revealed by Variety, stating, "Dune the Sisterhood is told through the eyes of a mysterious order of women known as the Bene Gesserit. Given extraordinary abilities by their mastery of the body and the mind, the Bene Gesserit expertly weave through the feudal politics and intrigue of the Imperium, pursuing plans of their own that will ultimately lead them to the enigmatic planet Arrakis, known to its inhabitants as Dune. It will serve as a prequel to the films." The first feeling of trepidation on my part came from the fact that this series is a prequel. While this does not necessarily mean that the series will be bad, I tend to view prequels as at least a potential red flag for any new production due to the fact that Hollywood too often falls into some very tired-out tropes. I find that most of the time, prequels merely exist to explain the origins for characters, institutions, and events that the audience is already familiar with. With some notable exceptions, prequels are rarely ever constructed as a standalone story, relying on an audience's prior knowledge of the original film, show, or novel, as it often focuses too much on explanations for how things came to be. While I hope the show can be one of those standout exceptions, I find that anything labeled a prequel should at least be met with a proper amount of caution. Aside from the confirmation of Dune the Sisterhood as a prequel, and along with some basic lore about the Bene Gesserit order itself, the initial plot included no details as to what the show was going to be about, and where exactly in the timeline it was set to take place. However, it should be noted that there was nothing here to indicate that the series was intended to be an origin story for the Sisterhood. Rather, the tagline describes the Bene Gesserit when they are at the height of their power, and indicates that we would get a glimpse behind the curtain of how they manipulate the rich and powerful, and entire peoples and cultures to serve their own agenda for humanity. But now, at least some of that synopsis appears to have changed. In October of 2022, there were quite a few announcements confirming the project was moving forward. As reported by Deadline, filming for the show would take place in November 2022 in Budapest, Hungary, which is one of the locations used for the two-part Dune adaptation as well. Casting choices were also revealed, along with a confirmation of the show's setting. Emily Watson and Shirley Henderson were announced to lead the series, with Watson playing the role of Valia Harkonnen and Henderson as Tula Harkonnen. The show is set 10,000 years before the events of Dune and is based on the novel Sisterhood of Dune by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson. Per the official logline, the show follows the Harkonnen sisters as they combat forces that threaten the future of humankind and establish the fabled sect known as the Bene Gesserit. The character descriptions also say the two sisters have risen to power in the Sisterhood, a secret organization of women who will go on to become the Bene Gesserit. I was a bit surprised that only now was the show officially confirmed as being based off of Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson's expanded prequel novel, Sisterhood of Dune. Up until that confirmation, the show continued to be touted as one that was based off of Frank Herbert's written works. This brings us to perhaps my biggest concern for this series. Brian Herbert's contributions to the Duneverse through his and Anderson's expanded novels is a point of contention within the Dune fandom, with many Frank Herbert fans noting Brian's many glaring contradictions to his father's mythos. Many, including myself, feel that his and Anderson's writing style places their novels closer to the realm of fan fiction than in an area that could be considered a faithful expansion. That being said, wherever you may find yourself regarding that issue, I feel that both sides of the fandom may end up being disappointed when it comes to the faithfulness of this new series. While I personally appreciate some of Brian Herbert's efforts when it comes to the expanding of the Duneverse, as primarily a Frank Herbert fan, there are things I take issue with when it comes to Brian's Dune books. One major issue in particular I fear will carry over into this series is the depiction of the Butlerian Jihad or the Great Revolt. This new HBO show is set in the years following this technological purge, and the series will no doubt include details of the Machine Crusade, as it is the reason for the anti-technological movement that is present in Brian's Sisterhood of Dune novel. In Frank Herbert's mythos, the Butlerian Jihad is one of the most significant events of human history. It is the backdrop for his story of Dune. Though there are not many details given regarding this devastating event, Frank Herbert describes it as an ideological conflict between humans. The Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohayim recalls the jihad, saying, "Once men turned their thinking over to machines in the hope that this would set them free, but that only permitted other men with machines to enslave them." Later on, the God Emperor of Dune novel noted that the target of the jihad was a machine attitude as much as the machines. Humans had set those machines to usurp our sense of beauty, our necessary selfdom out of which we make living judgments. Naturally, the machines were destroyed. Brian Herbert interpreted this as a gradual uprising of militant humans turned cyborgs that eventually were conquered by pure machine intelligence seeking to dominate humanity, leading to an all-out war between humans and thinking machines. Basically, he turned the Butlerian Jihad into the rise of Skynet in the Terminator franchise, which I and many others feel is a fundamental misunderstanding of this piece of Dune lore. What may be concerning to fans of Brian Herbert's book, however, is the fact that the show evidently will not even be a direct adaptation of the source material itself. Following the announcement of the casting of Henderson and Watson came the reveal that Indira Varma will be playing the role of Empress Natalia, described to us as a formidable royal who united thousands of worlds in her marriage to Emperor Carino. What I find so curious about this announcement is the fact that Empress Natalia is not from the Sisterhood of Dune novel. Regardless, it is clear that this invented character will be a major player in this series. Some have taken her formidable character description to mean that she is in charge, leading to speculation regarding the Emperor's part in the show. Considering Emperor Carino is only mentioned in relation to Natalia's marriage to him, there's certainly some grounds to rightfully question how many creative liberties will be taken with the source material. I must say the irony is not lost on me that Brian Herbert will himself be the subject of someone coming in and deviating from his established canon. So to summarize, the major concerns that I have for this series are as follows. Number 1, it's a prequel, and I generally don't like prequels. Number 2, it's based on a book by an author whose work I generally don't enjoy reading, and who I feel regularly falls far short of the standard that was set in Frank Herbert's original Dune series. And number 3, it seems that even still, many liberties are being taken with the source material. That being said, the fact that such changes are being made could end up meaning that this series might result in a better story than what was written in Brian's novel. Either way, these are the major reasons why I'm struggling to feel any optimism for this new series. Ultimately, time will tell, and I'll definitely have to wait to see more from the Dune Sisterhood series to determine whether it will be a good or even halfway faithful addition to Frank Herbert's Duneverse. But I'm curious to know what you think about HBO's Dune the Sisterhood series. Are you excited or concerned? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more Dune and other sci-fi and fantasy news and lore. Thank you all so much for your support. And as always, have a very nerdy day.